Quick disclaimer, John here. There's some audio issues on this episode, more so than our usual ones. We're working on fixing it. I'm a little quiet. Duncan's a little loud on top of everything else that went wrong. But I hope it's not too bad to listen through. If it is, totally understand. And I hope to see you on another episode of KAFM later down the line.
You and I are both pretty done with superhero movies.
I like Invincible, but that's just because I read the comic and I'm like, yo, Invincible's pretty cool.
But we also will see anything in theaters.
Yeah, we saw The Flash.
Yeah, and Night Swim. Imaginary.
I didn't see Imaginary.
Oh yeah, you weren't there.
No.
It's like a boring Night Swim.
The more I think about it, it's more like I kind of want to rewatch Night Swim just to see, like, did I miss anything?
Yeah, your time. I'm missing $13 in my pocket for the ticket and the drink. And I wish, or I hope that the movie has any of that, because James Gunn started in Trauma. I don't know if you know anything about Trauma movies.
Mm-hmm.
He was trained actually by Lloyd Kaufman himself, the guy who started Trauma.
Really? I didn't know that.
He was like all of his movies are edgy in those weird ways.
Mm-hmm.
I like them for what they are, and he can do less edgy, like Guardians of the Galaxy, but those characters are still like swearing criminal jerks.
Yeah, Guardians 3 got the first F-bomb in the MCU.
Does it?
Yeah.
Oh, I know. I never saw it. But I just worry that James Gunn can't do things that aren't edgy at least a little bit.
Oh, okay, so I see.
Because he can do genuine. He can, like Suicide Squad, the new one, although it's edgy and it has those very, like, like gory inspirations.
You can tell he loves the source material enough to dig out Polka Dot Man.
Yeah. I don't want anything edgy in a Superman movie.
It's got to be heartfelt and genuine.
I want to watch it and be like, this movie is for 6-year-olds, and I mean that as a compliment. Because I don't think we should keep taking superheroes away from 6-year-olds to give them to these man babies with podcasts.
Well, speaking of that, it's like the new TMNT movie. That's a movie for kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was awesome. We
saw that together.
Yeah, we
saw that on one of the hottest days of last year. I fell asleep on my floor. It was so hot, it was like 100 degrees. I woke up in the cool of the night and looked at my phone and I was like, I gotta see Ninja Turtles in about 30 minutes. So I just stood up, drank water, and walked into the night.
I loved that movie. And again, it's one of your favorite parts of the movie that you said was just kids being kids.
Yeah.
Like 4 kids talking over each other, just, all have different bits joking around.
Yeah. It was awesome. I love that Wu-Tang, or not Wu-Tang, the montage. I forget what song is playing, but it's like a 90s hip-hop song. Probably not Wu-Tang in a children's movie.
Speaking of, we were talking about, people who are still cool. That was produced by Seth Rogen.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah, I forgot. Is he a voice in it, too?
Yeah, he plays Bebop or Rocksteady, the Rhino of the Boar. He plays one of those.
And then Ice-T or Ice Cube is in it. One of the Ices.
And Paul Rudd is
Mondo Gecko.
Mondo Gecko.
And he's just a chill dude. And the movie's ugly in a good way. That type of a movie about sewer mutants that fight crime at the slimy night should be ugly.
Yeah, but it's like intentional. Like you can see that they probably spent time to be like, one eye's gonna be bigger than the other, but how much bigger?
The main villain's like a mutated horrible fly with jerry curls.
Fucking love that movie.
I don't know which ice it is. I can't remember.
Mr. Ice. Well,
Mr. Ice. Mr. Cool Ice.
Mr. Vanilla Ice.
It wasn't him.
It was the one it wasn't.
I know for a fact it was not white ass breaking and entering Vanilla Ice.
He's too busy building houses.
Is that what he does now? Is he a contractor?
Well, he's got a like an HGTV show of like, let me renovate your house.
My next guess was gonna be just building houses out of cardboard. On the underpass.
He really lost that lawsuit with Queen.
Ice, baby, as the freeze is coming in. Speaking of movies for children.
We've been going for fucking 13 minutes.
13? Welcome to the episode of KAFM. podcast where we watch the movies about vampires.
Today's the first of hopefully many vampire episodes.
Yes.
We have at least two more.
At least two. Depending on if they get their shit together and make Mahershala Ali's film. And what's his first name?
Mahershala.
Okay. I apologize to Mahershala Ali. I hope your Blade movie gets made. It won't be as good as Blade.
It won't be as good as before we get to the good one though. We did watch a movie before Blade.
Another movie that's for children.
Another movie for children.
Some children. I don't know which ones.
I was thinking about it afterwards. Now hear me out.
What movie is it first?
Twilight.
Oh, so that's our connection today. Vampire.
Vampires. I was thinking about it. I was thinking about it after we watched it.
Uh-huh.
Hear me out.
Okay.
It could have been worse.
Yeah. You said that with a big fucking smile on your face that makes me want to disagree with you, but I can't. It could have been worse. I could have walked into your house, you could have hit me in the shin, just slammed a Razor scooter into my shin bone. Instead, we watched Twilight.
So, it was, because I was thinking about other, like, young adult, because, like, this movie, this franchise was geared toward, you know, the kind of preteen audience,
Yeah.
you know, young kids who are discovering love and kind of that
Not
fantasy.
us,
No,
what you're saying.
not us. We are
20-something-year-olds.
we are not the target demographic here. I'm sorry to say.
Well, unfortunate.
However, it's incredible how many good actors are in this movie and just given poor material. I will say that.
Who? Robert Pattinson's good. I'll defend him. I like The Lighthouse and Batman.
I like the actor who played her dad. I liked I liked a lot of the like vampire family actors.
Uh-huh.
I feel like they understood it was kind of campy and fun. The villain vampires who always got the coolest shots in the movie and were objectively cool.
Are they all barefoot or just one of them?
Um,
Am I just thinking of Madam Web again?
look, that's a different kind of bite.
It's true. It's a spider versus a vampire.
Who would win?
I'll see Twilight again before I'll see Madam Web, so we'll give vampires this one.
Like, it's objectively, a lot of the shots in this movie are flat, and because again, we live in the PNW where this was filmed and where it takes place. So like, we've filmed here before. We know how to make exterior shots at least look interesting, right?
Are you saying you don't just shake a camera around a bored woman?
No, I'm letting my thought get away from me about.
So
it was a franchise dedicated to children. I started thinking about other like kids properties, kids book series that were adapted, and all the ones I could think of got either more time, like the Harry Potter books. You know, there were 7 of those. They got 8 movies. They had plenty of time to set up their world, and each one was sort of introducing something new. Percy Jackson, you know, that was 5 books instead of 4, and they didn't get a chance to finish those movies.
Oh, really?
So unfortunate.
How many Percy Jacksons did they make?
They made 2 movies, and they recently, Disney recently had a show about based on the first book, and that one was really good. That had the Edge in it as Ares.
The Edge? Do you mean Edge, the wrestler?
He doesn't wrestle because he's not a part of WWE anymore, so he wrestles under his real name, and I can't remember.
Copeland.
Yeah, him. But
so
he was in it as Ares, God of War, and that was pretty cool.
2 quick notes. First of all, that's Edge to you, sir. That's the rated R superstar.
Sure.
That is not the Edge.
I don't, dude. I've not been into wrestling since I was like 10.
Second of all, would you like to know my experience with the Percy Jackson movies?
Sure.
I did not know they made 2. I know they made 1 because I saw the trailer for it before Avatar in 2009
that
with my dad and my sister.
Would have been the first one.
And I got scared because the trailer was too loud. And they took me out of the theater and we went home. So my sister didn't get to see Avatar in 3D when it came out and was isolated at school, I'm assuming, because her annoying little brother was scared of the Percy Jackson trailer.
And that's it. That's your experience.
That's my experience.
I read the books. I was a big fan of that series when I was a kid. That was kind of my, like, every kid has one of those like hyperfixations, you know.
I don't know that that's true, but
You read the Harry Potter books, motherfucker.
I read them because my sister read them.
Nice cover.
Mm-hmm.
I read the books, and the movies were bad adaptations.
Okay.
They really were just bad adaptations. But like, there's only so much information you need to get out, and I feel like Twilight did its best to try and introduce its world because it had more to say in the later movies, and I feel like the book franchise was already so successful, they weren't worried about, like, what if we only get one? The studio probably signed on with Suzanne Collins? No, she did fucking... Suzanne Collins did Hunger Games. Stephanie Meyer, who wrote Twilight.
Okay.
They probably signed on with Stephanie Meyer to produce all of her books into movies.
Was Twilight a raging success at this point? It must have been. If it was getting a movie, it must have been selling like hotcakes. Because I remember it being everywhere, but we live in the area for it to take hold even more. Because I drove through Forks once to go on camping somewhere as a kid, and I remember seeing a lot of. They were happy, but I would consider them sad women walking through rainy Forks into vampire-themed shops in their cloaks and stuff.
Look, you should never yuck anybody's yum. If they love Twilight, I say let them. You know, like Disney adults, let them. That does not affect my day-to-day. Let them be weird Disney adults.
That's true. And if we get them all together, we can lock that theme park and just walk away. Just soft Florida off into the ocean like a Bugs Bunny cartoon and solve two problems at once.
We got to make sure we get the whole outline of Florida, though. We can't leave the Panhandle. That's where swamp people live. I want them gone, too. What?
Who's that offensive to? Somebody.
The Floridian swamp people, but I don't respect them.
Okay, and they probably don't have Wi-Fi. They're going to start cranking up their little bike to turn on their power to send in an angry email.
I just realized we didn't even introduce ourselves.
I'm Duncan, and he's
John.
I've tricked you all.
No, what are you talking about?
But
moving on.
Having seen Twilight,
yeah,
now as the phenomenon it was, I'm confused.
Yeah, the first one, because I've seen the first one and the third one.
I've seen none of them but the first one, and like you mentioned, I've read the Harry Potter books because of my sister. No other reason. No, I read them, and then I saw most, if not all, of the movies. At least some of them.
We should watch them out of order for this. We should watch them backwards.
Okay. We could, like, from runtime as well, so, like, start the credits and go back. To be honest, this movie about a magician becoming a poor child sure doesn't leave me with a weird taste in my mouth.
The movie ends with them locking him in a closet. The whole series is like, oh wow, no, it starts by he blasts his laser wand and it resurrects some dark wizard who does bad things.
I've made a magic Hitler as punishment. I shall live under the stairs.
I shall Benjamin Button me under the stairs.
So when I watch the Harry Potter movies, though, you don't have to have read the books, and you don't have to be interested in it, because it's a self-contained magical adventure. And ignoring the horrid woman that created those things, the interesting, so I talk about like a heel turn there, you know?
Yeah, I will say, you talk a lot about horrid women, I've noticed. I'm starting to make a pattern here.
Okay, well, sure, you draw the line in the sand on J.K. Rowling.
No,
I'll be the villain.
No, this is where I say that this is an exception to the rule, because J.K. Rowling is objectively a terrible person.
But you can understand those movies, right? They're just adventure movies, and it was the biggest thing on the planet. We all interacted with it on some level. And then Twilight was huge, and Twilight was like, it kind of felt like the next age group up, right? Like if a 9-year-old to an 11, 12-year-old read Harry Potter, then that 12-year-old to 14, 15, whatever
would be reading
Twilight.
Yeah.
Not predominantly girls. It never crossed my path because it just I wasn't a 14-year-old girl, despite my attempts.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I also didn't really interact with it a lot, but, you know, like, in like grade school and stuff, I had more female friends than male friends, and they were all like interacting with it, and I would just sit there and be like, sure, like, and it just didn't interest me. And again, it comes with like the muted color palette of the movie. Like, I would see
stills of the movie,
stills of it or clips of it or like trailers, and it'd be like, this movie just looks like it would put me to sleep.
I always thought I was seeing a clip through some like screwed up YouTube compression, some sort of bad rip, and then we put this movie on and it just looks that bad.
It's up on streaming. What streaming?
We watched it on Hulu.
Yeah, so like this is up for people to watch just like that.
This is how it is. And if we find discs of it, it's how it'll be. And if we read books of it, I don't think that's what you imagine. I don't think young girls were imagining a horrible muted color palette.
No, because even
with
like
really bright, weird greens occasionally.
Because like it's a point. First of all, it was always like when people talked about it, it was a big sticking point that, vampires glimmer in the sunlight. That's why they don't go out into the sun, not because it will kill them.
Yeah.
First of all, there is no downsides to being a vampire in this lore.
Ruins the point of a vampire.
Yeah.
There's no tortured existence if you live forever, are strong as hell, you're sexy as shit, and then also you shine.
Yeah, but like even when they were showing that, like he climbs up on that rock into like the sunlight, coming through the leaves and stuff, I could barely notice the like glimmer. It was like, I guess it looks like, you know how sometimes there'll be like a door with a fancy like crystal window or whatever, and like if light shines, it looks like they had one of those.
Prism.
Yeah, it looks like they had like a little prism just off screen. They were kind of like shining it at him.
Yeah, or like a temp VFX, and they're like, "You replaced the prism effect on Edward, right?" And they're like,
"The what?"
It's in theaters, dude.
We sent the
DCPs.
Yeah, we sent the DCPs out yesterday.
Send them one at a time to every theater in America.
It's too late. We sent
stop the trucks. He looks like shit. We didn't fix the running animation. He looks like he's made of goo.
Yeah, no,
he looks like just a blur effect.
Okay, we should probably run through the plot real quick of this.
So the plot of this movie is a girl moves from horrible Arizona to wet Pacific Forks,
Washington,
and meets at her school the nerds and then the jocks. And in this school, the jocks have zero muscle definition, are the skinniest vampires you've ever seen, and slowly she falls in love with one of them by kind of just like you go into the movie knowing they're gonna fall in love, and so the movie doesn't feel the need to justify it. So eventually, like, the movie goes, all right, we've been going on long enough, they're in love now.
They went out on like dates, or they've been hanging out after school and stuff.
And then there's about 30 minutes of that, and then the movie's like, oh, you need like villains or an objective to overcome in a movie, right? And so they add one of those. The movie goes about 30 more minutes, and then they go, stay tuned, because we got more vampires coming up.
Yeah, the actual like final confrontation happens off screen.
So
like they confront one of the evil vampires, and like they like beat the shit out of him, but she gets hurt. And the movie, obviously more of a love story than anything else, is focusing on like the tension between like, will she make it, and so Edward is like kind of worried about her and stuff, and then like they cut to a reversal and there's just fire in the background, and it's like, what's going?
Oh my god, is he just getting ruined by vampires?
What's going on over there?
Is there a good movie behind this? Are you telling me there's a vampire fight and I'm watching Edward Cullen suck wrist? Like, come on, man.
It's so unfortunate.
This movie feels a lot like a movie that was written. I'm surprised it resonated so much, because it feels like a movie that was written by adults who had never met teenagers or like forgotten what it was. Because the first clue, to me at least, you can always feel when these movies are disingenuous, is when what's her name? Kristen Stewart. Bella.
Yeah.
Moves to the new town. And her dad, who is trying hard, doesn't know how, doesn't deserve the treatment he gets.
That dad is actually like a pretty well-rounded character.
That's how you know we've gotten older too, is we're sitting there like feeling, we're like, that dad's really reaching out. Like, that girl's not treating him right.
He just doesn't know what to do. He hasn't seen his daughter in so long. He wants to connect. We can see it in his eyes.
So she gets a car, and the car is this horrible, ugly, red, beat-up pickup truck that literally looks like something Clark Kent drove to school in, all right? Like, it looks like Papa Kent's truck.
Yeah.
From the 78 movie. And it's been sitting in Forks ever since then, so it's rusted out. And she's just like, oh, and you're waiting for the classic like teenage drama thing where it's like, I wanted this.
I wanted a new car.
Yeah. And she's like, cool.
This is perfect.
And I guess that's supposed to be like she's a different character.
She's tomboyish. She's got the flannel on.
But like no tomboy would want to drive that car. No boy would want to drive that car. It's an ugly car that makes you look like a weird farmer at school. Like we'll make fun of you. We'll be like, oh, what's up, Farmer Bill? Farmer Bella. Bringing in a good haul from crops. Tomatoes. Rigatoni. I'm doing this. It's a different thing now. I've lost myself.
You sound like the vampires, because the vampires made her Italian food when she went over to their house.
I forgot that.
Yeah, they go, like, she goes to meet his family, and it's just like a bunch of vampires who live together, and their fake thing is like, oh, we're a family. You know, we have a family dynamic, but just a bunch of vampires who live together, and they were like, we don't really eat, but we wanted to make you something. It's like, we'll make her Italian food, and one of them even asks, is she even Italian? Her name is Bella.
That's like the only good line in the movie. And we jumped ahead there just because for about an hour of this movie, it's just her in high school going, oh my God, that weird vampire looks kind of like a vampire.
And he's hot.
And he keeps talking to her, and he walks up to her, and he's like, hey, you're the new girl. I'm kind of cool. And she's like, oh, interesting. And then he leaves, and then he comes back, and he's like, don't ever speak to me again.
We can't be together.
And you're not really sure why. And then it's like really hard to place any scenes in order, because they all are ugly color and shaky cam Dutch angles. And the Dutch angle, just to clear things up, a normal camera frame is a rectangle, right? That's what you're looking at. Dutch angle is when you turn it sideways or diagonal. So like the horizon line is at a diagonal through the lens or through the frame. In theory, if you were to straighten it out, you know? You're now looking at the world at a tilted angle. The reason is for new information. The world has changed. The world is off balance. Something in your life is off kilter. You could put that when you're learning he's a vampire. You could put that when you're learning new information. Or you could put that when you drive to school. Or when you're walking to the bus. Or when your dad is loading a shotgun and chugging beers. Or just kind of whenever.
What was he drinking? Rainier?
Rainier. He had a Rainier sponsorship.
He was him exclusively. Like every scene he was in at home, like when he was off duty, because he's a cop, by the way. Every scene where he's off duty, he has at least 3 empty ones in front of him, cracking a 4th one. It's a good time.
That's what I'm going to call my drinking problems from now on. No. I don't have a drinking problem. I have a Busch Light sponsorship.
The sponsorship is what happens after you enter AA. You need to...
No, I'm going in. I'm doing my homework before the class.
There was 2 things I wanted to talk about with this, because the big draw for Twilight, at least like from an exterior, is the love triangle between Bella, Edward, and Jacob. And Taylor Lautner, who plays Jacob, is barely in the movie, and they never talk about werewolves, which makes me so fucking upset, because I think werewolves are cooler than vampires.
They are. Me. And they show wolves occasionally, and he's like, he's clearly... They mention like what he's connected to the tribe somehow. I think that's his dad in the wheelchair. That's like a sheriff,
dad or grandfather,
because they say spread word on the reservation or something like that. They mention Kitsap County.
Yeah.
But he doesn't do anything. He just shows up in the movie and he's like, by the way, I have long hair, so that's an alternative to a vampire. Which one do you want to get with, Bella? And she has no real opinion. Ever. And then Edward shows up in a Volvo, which is my second car complaint about this movie. Bella's driving an ugly beat up pickup. No one picks on her. She doesn't care.
But he shows up in a cool way in that Volvo when he skirts around the parking lot.
Oh, it's an awesome stunt driver for a mother's car. Like, why does the cool kids, no one knows what's cool in this movie for children even. Or teenagers, and I'm thinking back to 2008, which I was alive in, believe it or not, and none of this seems cool. And so again, we just circle back to, I don't understand the hold these movies had. The books had a hold too, which they could invent their own thing, but the movies were big.
Which brings me to the second thing I wanted to talk about, because I mentioned it like after we watched it, that there was a 3-hour long video essay that I was in the room for and picked up a lot on. And this is by a YouTube channel called ContraPoints. She's very knowledgeable, and I think people should check her out. But she went on like a 3-hour long just discussion about the symbolism of gender roles in the Twilight franchise. And so you mentioned that like there were wolves present in the first one, despite the fact of no werewolves, and that blends into sort of the visual motif for like the analog of prey and predator, because there's like a fawn, like an innocent little deer, and that is meant to represent Bella and stuff. I can see your eyes glazing over, so I'll make this quick. But I think the reason it resonated so much is because it is like this perfect epitome of a lot of gender biases and gender roles that people put into romance. So like women want to be fawned over, but the second you objectify them or the second you want them or have them, that's too, like there's an interplay there. And again, I'm super simplifying this. If people are interested, there's the 3-hour long breakdown takedown from ContraPoints.
Listen, much respect to that video reviewer, but if I had to pick between 2 hours of Twilight or 3 hours of video reviews, I might just stand in a field. Just experience the joys of nature with no Dutch angles or color grading foibles or a fast, spindly man. And just, it's, I asked, I know a couple people who like Twilight, right? Or liked it when they were kids.
Yeah.
And I said, what was it? And something a thread that mentioned was it connected you to other girls around that age.
Oh.
It was a group thing. And at first, on surface level, I was like, oh, okay, I guess. Like, if everyone's into it, you're just kind of into it. And if you're around it enough, sure, you end up into it for however long to fit in. And then I thought about it more, and I said, no, that still doesn't make sense, because how does patient zero get into this? Who is starting this? Like, why are they obsessed with it to begin with? You go to a party and there's Twilight. You meet a friend and there's Twilight. How? Because you could be watching friggin' Bionicle.
Could be watching Bionicle.
And I thought that, but I don't begrudge these poor tricked teenage girls. Because I recently tried to rewatch Kung Pao Enter the Fist.
Tried?
I can't do it. It's cringe. And I don't mean that, I just mean it's bad humor. And I'm not 12 anymore. And I wish that I was. I want, let me in.
Because then Bionicle would be cool again.
Exactly.
Bionicle would still be around if we were 12 again.
Oh no. Send me back. Can vampires reverse time?
No, they could. You can just live long enough to see Lego bring it back.
I can do that already.
You can live forever?
2025, Bionicle return.
Really?
I'm manifesting.
Did you? I've never believed in any of that until now, but I learned it can serve as me.
Exactly. So we've talked about an hour of this movie because it's just kind of will they, won't they? Eventually they decide to will they. And will they ever get to anywhere interesting? Not particularly. But evil vampires show up and they attack kind of like velociraptors in Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
But it's a PG-13 movie, so they kind of attack like Jurassic Park vampires off screen in Jurassic Park.
Yeah, they kind of jump down from places and surround their prey, and they're kind of
do a little wobble and they nip at them, and I was like, okay. And then they appear twice, once on an oil rig somewhere, the other time just to kill a dude in a boat, and then they're out of the movie, and we're not even thinking about them.
Yeah, I almost forgot they were there, and then baseball happened.
Baseball happens. Because vampires are so powerful, to cover up the fact that they're just Barry Bondsing it out of the park on every play, they've got an 1,000 batting average. They never miss, and it goes 1,000,000 yards. They have to play only during lightning storms and thunderstorms, which don't happen a lot around here. We don't get a ton of thunder.
No, we do get, like, it rains, but if you're talking about, like, actual stormy thunder and lightning, not often.
Who wrote these?
Stephanie Meyer.
Does she live in the area?
It's making me...
You don't have to look it up.
You keep talking.
Okay. So they play baseball in a thunderstorm, and then the villains show up. And at this point, Bella's in with the vampire family, because they made her a nice Italiano pasta pie, and... they're kind of ride or die for her. They're like, yeah, okay, welcome aboard. There's no way this can end good. And I've lost my train of thought here.
She's from Hartford, Connecticut, and lives in Phoenix, Arizona, which is where Bella was at the beginning of the movie. And then her stepdad was like, "Hey, we gotta go."
So she's not from the area.
No.
Okay. You stole our culture. You co-opted it. You commodified it. You've turned us into the laughing stock of the vampire baseball community.
Kinda, yeah, because vampires were cool before.
Were they?
Yeah, because before this movie, we had Blade.
We did.
Which was the other movie we watched. This is me transitioning out of it.
I got you. Don't worry. I'm ready and willing.
Blade was so
long, Twilight. I'm going to go talk about the greatest film ever made, Blade 1998.
Here's the thing, though. We're gonna talk about the other Twilight movies because we're going to watch the other Blade movies.
Are you letting that out of the bag? If that's how we're doing this?
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
I'm not telling you when it's going to happen.
Because we don't know.
We've been playing fast and loose.
That's the only way I know how. Speaking of fast and loose, bullets and blood in Blade 1998.
If you say you start your movie with a blood rave,
yeah, it's awesome. It's just awesome. Technically, it starts with just a gross ass, disgusting, bloody baby getting ripped from a mother's pregnant womb, and I'm like, already more has happened in this movie than in Twilight. And so, take me where you will, Blade. And where they take me is an underground blood rave where people get doused in blood in a meat factory. And then Blade shows up and they go, Blade. And then he shotguns people. And then he runs out of shotgun shells. And he pulls a sword out and he draws a line in the blood, not a line in the sand. And then they go, the Daywalker. And then he kills those ones too. And I'm like 4 minutes into this movie, and that's 1998. Twilight's 2008. How much we lost in 10 years. Culture died, and Stephanie Meyer killed it. Like, I've been kind of sleepy the first 30 minutes of this or whatever has been going on.
Yeah.
Because fucking Twilight, which I acknowledge is not for me, but Blade is for the people. There is no one I cannot put on that couch, put on Blade, who will not appreciate some part of it. That's my culture.
Blade. I have nothing. I mentioned it before that like my dad had the soundtrack on CD, and sometimes he would just put that in the car. So that Technotronic song at the beginning of Blade, the Blood Rave, like I'm going ballistic because like we're watching it on the couch, and I'm immediately like 8 again.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, let's fucking go.
And I'm 8 again without the memories because Blade just shotgunned a vampire into the chest, nailed him to the wall, lit him on fire, and then left before the cops showed up.
Oh, there's one poor unfortunate motherfucker. Blade will not kill this guy. He keeps showing, this vampire guy keeps showing up, and he's just like, you can't kill me, Blade.
And I want to stress something. Everything I've just said, we are 8 minutes into the movie.
We have not even gotten to the title sequence yet. This is all preamble.
They're just teasing you. They're like, this is the shit we gave away for free. This is in the trailer. You want to rent this at the Blockbuster? That's playing on the screen because it's 1998 and we're allowed to make good movies. Joss Whedon hasn't ruined us yet.
God, we talk about how every now and then how like CGI has been getting worse.
Yes.
This is just good because there's barely any CGI. I mean, there's like fake blood every now and then that doesn't look great.
And it's bad, but I don't care because everything else is good.
Yeah, but like you talked about it, how like they use shaky cam well, and they throw fake punches, or like they move the camera with like tossing this guy, but they don't need CGI to toss the guy.
No, they just throw a dude. They put him on wires and whip him around a fake vampire pyramid.
I was thinking the dude in the like kitchen when they were going down to the pyramid.
Oh yeah,
yeah, and he's just like
throwing him around, beating his ass raw into fucking refrigerators. God, it's the perfect movie. What else are you supposed to do?
It's literally, the plot is that there's a guy who's half vampire. His mother was bit while she was pregnant.
All of this is implied or said to you quick enough where it doesn't slow the movie.
Yeah. So he's half vampire, and he works with a human who just hates vampires. Yeah,
he's half vampire, half badass motherfucker.
He works with Chris Christopherson.
Who's full ass motherfucker.
There's a woman who gets bit, the love interest in the movie. She gets bit, and Chris Christopherson was just like, because Blade brings her back and he's just like, why didn't you kill her? And Blade's just like, I didn't. And Chris Christopherson's like, you should have killed her. She wakes up and she's just like, I'm a doctor. I might be able to, if you can get me a blood sample of the vampires, I might be able to like cure this before I turn. He's just like, if not, here's a gun. Kill yourself.
And this is the thrust of the movie. Can she defeat her own budding vampirism? And will Blade kill every single vampire he finds? And the answer is yes to both. And you know what? They don't spend equal time on him. 5% in the lab tinkering as Chris Christopherson seethes over her shoulder going, blow your brains out. Blow your brains out. Be a man. The South will rise again. Just blaring Sweet Home Alabama as he's got his itching to ice the next biter. And in between that, Blade goes scene to scene, just like to the point where the movie knows, because at one point he threatens a cop who's secretly working for vampires, and his solution is just to beat him in a trunk in the street. And then the second a problem goes wrong, he just pulls a gun. And they're like, you can't just pull a gun on cops in New York. And he's like, I can't help but notice I'm fucking Blade. This cop is nobody to me. And we watched these back to back, and I don't mean to compare apples and oranges, but I mean to compare vampires and vampires. And there's a right way and a wrong way to do no drawbacks to being a vampire. And the right way is guns and katanas and a motorcycle.
So often he just like both of them, Chris Christopherson and Blade. I can't remember Chris Christopherson's character's name. Whistler. Every night, like Whistler will just blow a wall open and have some one-liner and start shooting vampires.
And it just holds on it. It's just a scene of vampires running and gunning as they're turned into fucking meat chunks. They're like, what's better than a stake through the heart? Silver bullets through every 3 inches of their sternum. Like, I don't, people always say, they always like read like, oh, Blazing Saddles couldn't make that today. Oh, all these edgy movies couldn't make that today. We're too woke. You couldn't make Blade today because no one has the goddamn balls. There isn't a producer in the world that could greenlight anything with the chutzpah of 4 minutes of Blade.
It's truly... Like, you talk about, like, what we lost, in 10 years. I was thinking about, like, because Iron Man was also, like, 10 years later, like 2007, 2008. And I was just thinking about, like, I mentioned it after the movie, like, this should have been the first MCU movie.
Yeah.
Should have been like this, and then, like, I guess the Fantastic Four can stay, like, kind of bleed these movies together. If Blade had been the core, the heart of the MCU, I would still be watching them.
The beating heart and the bleeding edge Blade. And you know what he doesn't do? He doesn't earn his sunglasses or his guns
or his sword,
vampire powers. He doesn't struggle with like, oh, am I a vampire or am I human? His answer is, I'm a motherfucker who kills people.
Who kills vampires?
No more vampires in this vicinity.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
And the plot is that it's a group of evil vampires who, believe it or not, are all corporate heads because banks are
90s anti-corporate, don't sell out.
Yeah, which is still really cool.
Yeah.
But the main villain of the movie is a guy named Deacon Frost who just runs vampire nightclubs. Mm-hmm. So it's really funny to have like a boardroom full of pale businessmen, and then this dude in a fur coat sucking a pacifier because this was late 90s rave era.
Yeah.
He comes in, he's just like, I'm also here.
I sell Molly to vampires and kill people.
And they were like,
what's my goal? To be God.
Yeah, because he was like, the Daywalkers, they're not pure vampires, but they're better than us because, Blade can go out in sunlight. Blade's only drawback is that he has the thirst, but I like having the thirst. So if I was Blade, I would be cool.
Yeah.
So it's just...
It's impossible, by the way. Blade's already cool, sir. I'm watching the movie.
Yeah, no, it's like, I'm watching it, and the only thing that Deacon Frost has over Blade, and this is a twist of the movie, he's fucking his mom.
Oh, okay.
Because...
That's true.
Blade's mother did not die in childbirth because she was bit, so she was a vampire.
And that's a twist.
Yeah.
So you know how Blade solves it? His evil mom gets killed by Blade.
He does not hold back for anybody.
No, he solves every problem in the world with a gun, just like every hero should. It's just so beautiful. It's just so refreshing. And I know it makes me sound stupid and reductive. And I just want an action movie. But we all do. And it speaks to something at our core that we can all watch this movie and think it's awesome. And it speaks to something that you don't need to overthink it. Or if you overthink it, you overthink it by throwing a little girl through a hot dog truck while shooting at Blade so that then he can run to save her so she's not hit by a garbage truck or a bus. A bus that will not stop for any man, woman, or little girl.
This is New York public transit. They got to make it to the next stop.
I got 2 minutes to get there with or without her curls smeared across my tires.
You know how trains don't stop when there's something on the track and they just got to log it when they make a stop? I've never been to New York. However, that's how I imagine their public transit works. They just log it.
I would love to be a train conductor with no power. Just like, once I'm going, and I'm just vaporizing meat. Like,
there's a cow or something on the oh no.
A man with suicidal ideation. If only his support system was better.
Oh man.
It would be. Have you ever seen The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3?
That's on my list.
It's an old one, the 70s one.
Yeah.
Excellent train movie. However, no vampires and no Blade, so it's not that good.
I should also say, if you need help, seek help. Like, if you have suicidal ideations.
Oh, I think you meant with vampires.
No.
If you need help will find you. Blade can smell them out.
Blade will help you.
Blade will help you. Chris Christopherson will help you.
It is so funny because you mentioned it that like Chris Christopherson has the most like you said the South Shall Rise Again kind of like vibe about him, but he's super not that.
Yeah,
he's super left.
Well, he's a good actor.
Yeah,
he's a Whistler.
It is so funny to think that is Whistler. Mm-hmm. And it's like the one thing they have in common, like the was it Predator, where it's like they do the arm
handshake.
It's just like we hate vampires.
That's the one thing the establishment vampires fear is reaching across lines. Can a white racist and a black vampire kill every bloodsucker in New York City? The answer, yes.
And the best part about it, Blade 2 is better.
I don't believe you.
Blade 2 is better.
You're getting my hopes really high because in this movie, Blade drives the Blade Mobile through a busy sidewalk and just people have to scream and get out of the way. Like
they give him the Blade Mobile and the Blade Cycle.
And he crashes it through a windshield and kills vampires.
Yeah, because they were like, how is Blade... I remember that was a thing in the movie. It's like, how is Blade going to get into this, like, heavily fortified... And then it just cuts to him driving a motorcycle through the doors.
Front door. He's going to get in through the front door with 50 caliber ammunition and a stake through the heart. I love this movie. Seek this movie out immediately.
Please.
I don't even know that we've described the plot because the plot is literally just seen as we cut to a woman. She goes, I think I'm turning into a vampire. And they go, well, kill yourself and figure it out. Blade is occasionally thirsty and he kills motherfuckers. Mm-hmm. And he kills more and more as he gets closer to Deacon Frost, who at the end has the power. But then Blade has the other power, and then he catches his sunglasses, the music kicks back in, and he kicks the shit out of vampires.
This movie didn't need, and people complain about like, superhero movies are so cookie cutter, there's nothing unique. This is from a time when they didn't need heavy plots or like interesting plots to keep the action going because the action was practical. It looked good on camera. The music direction, when we were watching the credits, we specifically called out the guy who was in charge of like music scores. Like, thank you, sir.
Sergeant Kickass, I think was his name.
It is now. Yeah, like everything, it feels like everybody understood the assignment to lean into it at like 110%. Because like even the corporate vampires, they were still a little campy, like they were.
They were in a dark boardroom that was vaguely shaped like a coffin.
Yeah. Like that, like you could look around and understand. It's like, oh, it's this.
It looked like a comic book movie in a way. Comic book movies today look just kind of bland and flat in CGI. Back, all these old movies are pulling from comic books, so they try to look like comic books.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like a dark, evil boardroom. Looks like a '90s comic book panel.
Yeah, that would be like a single page spread of the full coffin shape vertically, and you would have like word bubbles going along. Like it's our establishing shot. We're hearing people.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
The vibrant colors, even if it's black, it's like the heavy black with the red blood and things like that.
The palette in this movie is so simple but so stark.
Those dirty New York streets. It's not just a green screen. We're just standing on a sidewalk in these filthy street shops and everything like that.
I'm so worried that, you know, if or when the new Blade comes out, it is going to be a lot of interior shots. That way they can do it on a stage. And
no, that's the thing. I have no interest in a Blade movie that's an MCU version of this.
No.
Because this exists.
True. But, like, in terms of the MCU trying to get more adult, you know, first F-bomb, they're doing Deadpool in the MCU and stuff. I want to watch Deadpool and Wolverine, I think is what it's called. Mm-hmm. And I just want to see, is rated R MCU rated R? Or is it still like, are they still pulling the reins? Like, is Deadpool going to hit as hard as Deadpool 1 and 2?
I think Deadpool 2 hits hard.
I think Deadpool 2 still understands that, like, we're not the MCU. We can make fun of it. Like, I think it's still very referent. Like, I complained about, like, I hate how things are so self-referential. Deadpool's always been that. Mm-hmm. Deadpool, She-Hulk, like, comic characters who started as, or who are known for wink at the camera. Mm-hmm. That's completely fine. And I do like Deadpool 2 just for, like, the characters. I like how they did Cable. I do like how they did Cable. I wish they had casted somebody taller. But for the most part, I do like...
I wish that for every action star.
Be 8 feet tall.
Pathetic 5 whatever, man. You hold no dominion over me.
I don't think I have anything else to say. I
watch Blade immediately.
Watch Blade immediately. For Twilight, in the grand scheme of it, I understand the allure from the novel perspective. I don't think this movie, having not read the book, throwing it at a dartboard, I don't think this movie was a strong adaptation.
No, because, like, one of the villains is still there, in theory. They don't really close anything.
The teaser is that the vampire they kill his vampire girlfriend, and the teaser at the end is that they show her, like, walking away, like walking out of a building or something, like, oh, don't forget she's still alive.
Yeah, that was her, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was...
Okay, I can't tell faces a lot of the times.
Yeah, and when everybody is so, like, pale and gaunt and, like, they're... Yeah.
That vampire family was ride or die. I wanted to say that.
Yeah, no.
They accepted that girl that would out their secret immediately, and then the second she's in trouble, they're like, all right, vampire war.
Going to vampire war.
And I told one of those recovered Twilight addicts, they were like, what was your favorite character? And I said the one with the sideways hat that lands on the truck. Because he's pretty cool.
Fucking B-boy landing.
It's how I would dress if I could live forever. I'd just be Run DMC, showing up in different time periods. So, if you're a Twilight fan and that's a horrible character to pick, find me and send me hate mail.
Or money.
No, I'd look for conflict today. Not reparations.
Oh, man.
Send all reparations to Blade for having the audacity to make superhero movies after him.
Give money to Wesley Snipes and make sure he files it.
All right, cut the feed.